Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage from Clorox, Navin Kunde, Business Network's leader of R&D.
Come here, you.
Awkward hug?
Awkward hug.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Matt.
We just agreed to an awkward hug
Yeah.
behind.
Well, I was going to give him a hug without him knowing about it, but he had to talk about it, and Matt had made it awkward. So
It's my fault. It's
yeah,
my fault.
yeah. It's always your fault, Matt.
So, by way of introduction, this is Navin. He's from Clorox, old friend, and we sort of challenged him to take on the post-lunch spot because everyone goes and eats, and they're it gets a little sleepy.
Yeah.
So we're like, of all the people, I think he's the best guy to be sitting here right now. So
On the spot.
we're just gonna have a conversation, and then we'll take some audience Q&A in a little bit.
Please ask questions because we have a little mic we're going to throw at you when you have a question to ask. So
Yeah, so
let's have some fun and hope everybody enjoyed the Magritte exhibit. Yeah, that was cool, wasn't it? I was up there. That was awesome. I took a couple of pictures and then they said one photo I'm not supposed to take. There was one that was forbidden.
So Navin, talk to us about how you first got into the whole innovation game, open innovation game at Clorox.
I started my career in the aerospace industry, and we were very focused on just doing it all ourselves and very inwardly focused, and that never made any sense because there was all these technologies and suppliers and external people out there. And then a few years later, I found myself in the consulting world, working in the strategy and innovation space. And I came across this concept of open innovation, and there were a lot of very good practitioners, Clorox being one of them, and this idea that someone else is better, faster, cheaper than you are. And instead of reinventing the wheel, just partner with them, work with them, be humble, be curious, and get your products as fast to the market as possible instead of letting your egos get in the way, and get that Clorox product in the hospital where you need it, or get that Brita water filter where you need it, or whatever it might be, was mind-blowing to me. It's like that impatience that if we have all of this, why are we waiting? Why are we letting our corporate processes and egos get in the way? Let's get it there as fast as possible. So this concept of open innovation, of making the world your R&D lab, if you will, was fascinating to me. So I resolved that when I would throw in my consulting hat and be tired of traveling and do all those fun things, I would go find work at one of these companies, and that's what I did. When I was ready to quit consulting, I called a few of the chief innovation officers I knew. One of them was Clorox, and I said, "Hey, I'm Navin. I don't know if you remember me, but I want to come work for you. And it's nice that you work in the Bay Area because I've always wanted to live in the Bay Area." So that was kind of cool. And here I am.
So Navin, you're probably going to hear like 5 to 15 things that you've never heard about open innovation. I don't want to put them on the spot.
Yeah.
So if you want to take out pen and paper or whatever, it's going to come fast and furious. You might find yourself wanting to listen to the video later because it's just the way he operates. But let's take a step back with Clorox. So everyone knows the bleach, but what's the things, the other products you guys make that people may not know?
If you have the bleach, of course, that's what the company was founded on over 100 years ago, making bleach, pulling water from the bay here and electrolyzing it and selling it, and then it became a consumer company. And then over the years, we've added other products. I mean, there's other Clorox products like the disinfecting wipes he talked about earlier, but people don't know. Burt's Bees is a brand that we bought like 10, 15 years ago. Natural personal care, lip balm, and other things. Brita water filtration, we have the license for that for the Americas. There's cat litter, Kingsford charcoal, if you guys are into grilling. I'm sure there are brands that I'm forgetting. Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. And these are all separately managed businesses. There's no bleach in our dressing, don't worry about it. And they're all separately managed businesses, and but they're all under the Clorox umbrella. And essentially, it's a consumer products company. The idea is to make consumer lives better every day, and that's what we do. Every business has a core and has an innovation arm, and then there are corporate innovation groups that support all the businesses as well as some of the leading edge businesses, and also sharpen the saw. So through practice, we develop these new ways of doing things and doing innovation, like open innovation and other things.
And give us the context. People know CPG, but where do you guys fit? Procter and Gamble, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and I think that also is a reason why open innovation is such a big part of our strategy. Clorox is about $6 billion, give or take a few million, and Procter and Gamble, Unilever, they're about 10 to 15 times our size. And we had a CEO. There's some GE folks in the audience, I'm sure, who came from GE back in '99. And a gentleman named Wayne Delker, and he was in charge of innovation and R&D, and he looked at our portfolio, and he said, how do I compete with these other large companies? And I'm going to just stand up for this. I know they will hate me back there, but I'm going to do it. So they gave him this graph, right? And on this graph had on the y-axis had all the patents that these companies have, and then all the companies lined up. And so the first company was like Unilever, going way up there, like here, Procter and Gamble, number of patents, Kimberly-Clark, SC Johnson, and then Clorox, like down here, right? And he was like, how am I going to compete? But next to Clorox, somebody had this massive bar going way up to the fourth floor where the Magritte exhibit is, which said suppliers and partners. And he had this aha that we could partner, tiny Clorox could partner with all those suppliers and partners, the Dow Chemicals and the BASFs and all those others, instead of trying to do it all themselves. So he said, instead of trying to outmuscle all these other guys, we're never going to get there. Let me just figure out a way to partner with them, let them know what are the problems our consumers are facing, because a lot of the B2B companies are sort of removed from the consumer, whereas we understand the consumer. Let's make that happen. That's where open innovation was born. We called it technology brokerage or some extremely boring name back then, but that's what evolved into open innovation. And so open innovation is really fundamentally part of the company philosophy, this idea that you have to be curious and humble and partner with others to succeed is sort of fundamental to our DNA and success.
So when you guys look at like products and sort of what Clorox is good at,
yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty diverse portfolio, right? Brita filters, Burt's Bees. Jackson has little spit rags from Burt's Bees as well. So, and then obviously the bleach and the wipes. So like, what is the, sometimes when you see that you go, what is this company good at? What are they kind of, so how do you guys think about that where you can have the latitude to go play in, salad dressing one day and water pitchers the next day?
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good question. When I was interviewing for Clorox, one of the questions I asked was, who put this schizophrenic portfolio of brands together? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And they said it's because all these brands are strong brands that are sold to the consumer. That's sort of the common thread. And they're all sold through retail, Walmart, Target, wherever you go shop. And now it's all e-com. A lot of it is e-com. But that's the common thread. It's serving the consumer. And we're mostly an American company, but we're more global than people give us credit for. And so it's all about brand building around a strong product core. But the product doesn't have to be all done by ourselves. It can be done by us and a combination of partners. Because the consumer, at the end of the day, it doesn't really care where the technology comes from. They want the best possible product on the shelf at the best possible price that they can buy. So that's the philosophy which kind of threads all these brands together. Is strong brands we believe in, strong products that we put together in the best possible way, working with whoever we need to work with, and then we get them to retail and all the channels that people shop in as efficiently and quickly as possible.
So I was surprised how long you guys have been doing open innovation for. So if you go back to that tech brokerage, how long has the sort of effort been in place approximately?
About 20 years. It's about 20 years. 99 is when Wayne came on. So maybe it took a couple of years to get everybody on board. Maybe I would say 17, 18 years at least. Mm-hmm. And it's evolved. I think over the years, we've kind of gone from it being about partnering with suppliers, that's where we started. That tall bar going to the fourth floor was all suppliers mostly. And we said, we look around 10 years ago, we saw these startups coming on board, and we said, why not partner with startups? We always been, partnering with universities here and there, partnering with consultants, partnering with engineering and design firms. We even have a joint venture with Procter and Gamble, who's our biggest partner. So if you think of the Glad trash bags and containers, it's a joint venture with P&G. So we even figured out a way to partner with our top competitor on a JV, which is a $1 billion business. So it's over the years we've kind of evolved, and now it's all about analytics. It's about natural language processing, and we are taking a strong look at AI and AR, VR, and all those other things. So we are always focused on what's happening outside, and we have a group that's always laser focused on the problems of the inside. So trying to figure out what the problems are the inside and what's happening on the outside, and trying to make those two meet is sort of what we do.
So there's a couple directions I can go in. I gotta choose one, but there's this question of hearts and minds, right? So how do you some people just bump in. They want to do open innovation. They want to get an ecosystem going, and they just bump into not invented here. And so what's the formula to try and break that stranglehold?
There is no formula. It's really understanding the problem that you're trying to solve, not in a superficial level where somebody says, this is my problem and I got it, I can figure this out, but getting a little deeper and like really winning the hearts and minds of the people who have the problem, which is usually in their businesses. And they themselves see that, hey guys, we can't do this on our own. If you don't have them on board, then you'll be fighting them every bit of the way. We try not to force our way in. It's more of a softer, you attract more bees with a spoonful of honey than a pound of vinegar kind of an approach. And we have folks who are embedded in the business, who've come from the business, who work there, and who have a strong appreciation of what's happening outside. So it's, if you think about the hearts and the minds, it always starts with framing up the problem. And then a lot of our scientists sometimes they don't want to go outside because they feel threatened. They might be working on something on the inside, but they know that they can get to market that much faster. Why not? And it's not like we're just going to just license everything. It's usually a mix of the inside and the outside. And the minds are like, duh, we're going to get to market a year faster or 2 years faster, or the product is going to be better or cheaper. And so it becomes sort of a no-brainer. But the hearts start from hey guys, we can put out a better solution out there which can help the consumer, and a lot of us have that mindset. And people who don't usually end up leaving because that's how the company is based. We can't throw the dollars at everything like other companies can, which is sort of the graphic I sort of explained earlier using my physicality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hans Roebling. So I think when people think about innovation, there's sort of this, I don't want to call it simplistic, but there's sort of a basic definition of, okay, we're interacting external, maybe we're allowing for people to submit technologies to us, maybe we're publishing some needs, maybe we're running some grand challenges or doing some co-creation. But it seems to me like you guys are doing a whole nother set of activities, whole different gear of activities, the summits and stuff like that. So can you share some of that?
Yeah, we do. We look at the external world in many different ways. So one of them is obviously we partner with suppliers, startups, universities, and so on. Once we have the business challenge framed up, we are constantly tapping into external subject matter experts on our businesses. Whenever we are going into a new space, we find the external experts who can help us learn very quickly. Part of it comes from the curiosity, but also the humility, knowing that we are going into a new space. And while we might put our smartest people on it, and they can get there maybe in 9 months, there are people out there in the world who've been doing it for 30 years or 25 years or whatever. Why not just find them, talk to them, pay them a little bit of money, and then you're there. Or you can kill a project way faster because somebody else has tried it and it has failed. And nowadays with ecosystems and networks and LinkedIn and all these other ways of tapping into experts and knowing who's out there and what they've done, it's much easier than it was before to find people who worked in a given space. but the it's both, right? You're curious about who's outside, but if the internal people are not willing to talk to them or not willing to share with you what it is that they want help with, you're not going to get there. So you need both. It's not one or the other. And we work hard at figuring that out and making sure we frame the problem correctly.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, like I said, my sort of primitive view is, open innovation, you're taking an idea or an innovation from outside, but just being like, no, we're just going to go buy expertise and we're going to consider that open innovation because it's going to feed innovation that we've got going on inside. The sort of engagement model to arrive at a good problem statement, what does that look like? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? Has it evolved over time? It seems like that's a really key piece of the puzzle. Yes. And I guess anything you can tell me there, how do you coach people to do that? How do you crack that nut?
It's gotten a lot easier. We have to find the people who want the problem solved, and then they articulate the problem, and the first time it's usually not articulated well. And then we ask them in many different ways, dive a little bit deeper. What is the key question you want answered? Who might have this answer? Where would you find these experts? Is it academics? Is it a consultant? Is it somebody who used to work at some other company? Who do you look up to in this space? And we do some research on our own as well to get a sense for where those experts might reside. And there are all these expert agencies now. We've got Your Encore was the classic one, where a lot of technical experts, but now there's, GLG and Primary Insights and GuidePoint and all these expert networks that are out there you can tap into. But if you don't frame the problem correctly, it's garbage in, garbage out. And so you really put your finger on the pulse there, that framing up the problem is extremely important. And sometimes we'll go back and say, I don't get it. And so we have to train our people. And I have one of my colleagues there, Clarissa. Hi, Clarissa. Train people there to ask that question. I call it be an order shaper, not an order taker. So when somebody says, go find me this, and no, don't say, yeah, sure, I'll go find you that person. No. Why? Why did you come up with this? Why is this the key question you're trying to answer? Do you really have the answer or not? Or are you asking a deep enough question? Or this is gobbledygook, I don't understand this at all. So we challenge, we train our team, and now there are enough internal people who've done it over the years that they are getting better at framing up the problems and coming to us for that.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there an example you can share of Burt's Bees team or the Brita team where you can share maybe it was a need you fulfilled or one that's open?
Of course I can share this. This is about sharing, right, guys? This is the innovation community. Say innovation is hard, so we have to share. I'll share with you the Burt's Bees example because I think a lot of people can associate with that. So how many people here know that Burt's Bees recently went into color cosmetics? So it's not just lip balm, but color cosmetics because the brand, the people hated the fact that a lot of women are putting these synthetic chemicals in their faces and so on. And if Burt's can put natural products instead of the chemicals, it's so much better. But we didn't know anything about the makeup industry or cosmetics. So we had to learn. And of course, there were people in the organization who thought they knew it all and they could formulate it, but obviously they're not going to know it all. So we found them experts and so on. But the key, and we had a scientific advisory board, which we've had for a while, dermatologists and integrative health specialists and so on. But what we did, which I thought was quite unique, was we put together what we called a beauty advisory board. These were makeup artists from Hollywood. And so I was tasked with finding makeup artists from Hollywood to advise the Burt's Bees business on their color cosmetics line. And then we had some trend consultants also that we found. Futuristic, what is Gen Z doing? Forget millennials, they're yesterday's news. What is Gen Z doing? How are they thinking about it? This whole gender agnostic approach that they have and so on. What we try to do again, they say, hey, go find makeup artists. But again, I'm not an order taker, I'm an order shaper. So you think about, and there are so many Hollywood makeup artists. How do you even start? So, you do some research, you go to some shows, watch them applying makeup on, the stars of the world. But we found one who is all about birds, and she's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion, lives on the beach, and like it's all about natural beauty. I don't care if the mascara costs $89.99, I want it, right? She's all about natural. We want that person on there. But now I want to put this person in tension because you can't sell something for that much money and actually make business out of it. So I found this other person, and we had a selection to choose from. So it's not like I was going hunting for people, but this other person was all about, like, just to give you a visual image, she was from Brooklyn, all about drugstore beauty. If it's not $9.99, they ain't buying it, all right? So synthetic, sweetheart, it has to be on the face for 8 hours. You're not going to be touching it up every 2 hours, So there's the tension, right, between these two. She's going like 8 hours at least, and these awesome colors that natural products can't produce. And she's saying, no, it has to be natural, but look what's happening to their skin in 20 years. And I just sat back and watched this interaction, and the brand gets to watch this interaction. And that's part of, just one example, but you bring in the external, you see the debate, and you get to see these people who are pros, if you will. And then eventually we find the thread through it, which can satisfy them both. And that is the win, right? Maybe it's not $9.99, maybe it's $19.99, but it's a natural product. And maybe it's not 85 shades, maybe it's 12 shades. So, you may not get gangrene, but you might get some other shades that might work for you and is natural. So that's sort of the middle ground we try to do. But again, I think it's important to, when the business comes to you and you have confidence, they have confidence that you'll deliver. And some of the requests are absolutely off the world crazy. But we find a way to do it, and we have fun with it. But first this request came to me, I had no idea what to do. But we said, hey, let's have some fun with this.
I love the breadth of how you guys view open innovation. It's basically any contact, any relationship, expert, whatever, any that can just help us innovate, right? It's not, oh, we have to take it.
We call it delivering external perspective and capability. And that is super broad. So it's external, anything external.
So delivery is...
Delivering to the business, external perspective, so knowledge, your advice, whatever, and capability.
Okay, those are the kind of big pillars of what you guys do.
Yeah.
And the original ask from the business unit there was, we're just thinking about getting into cosmetics, or we're already in and we're not doing as well as we'd like?
Yeah, the ask was that we're going to get in. Can you help us do this better? We're going. They're going to do it. But they're going to do it just kind of the way they would otherwise do it without external support. So, and I had a deadline to deliver, and I had to do it on a certain timeline and bring all the people along and so on. So, because if you don't have the right stakeholders in the room listening to this debate, then you're not going to influence the actual business decisions that are being made. Yeah.
What's another story where someone came to you or you went to them and just kind of a unique expression of your definition of open innovation?
Since we have this picture here, I'm going to talk about this.
Okay.
This wasn't staged at all, guys. So see this picture? This is a Brita Stream picture. And see this little cage here? This was made by an outfit in India that we found, and we built this innovation network in India because we found a lot of our engineering firms in the US was simply shipping everything to India and charging us 3 times overhead. So I just went to India and found out who they were working with, and we worked directly with them. Anyway, so what this was is a very simple concept. There's no filter in there. So, but imagine you just pour the water in, and then you pour it out of here. And there's a filter in this cage that you see up front, and it's filtered as you pour. Okay, as you pour, it filters. But the old style pitchers are always filtered as you fill. If any of you own a Brita pitcher, half of it is the water that you put in, and there's a filter, and then it trickles down into the bottom, and that's clean water, and that's the water that needs to be cleaned. This is twice the volume, much easier, fits inside your fridge. But this was an innovation. They didn't have a lot of money for this. The base business was focused on, the older legacy pitcher that they were very focused on. That's core. But we found an inexpensive way very quickly to get the proof of concepts done in tight deadline, tight budget, And once they saw the proof of concept, everything was moving forward. And now it's the number 2 pitcher out there. So legacy is still number 1. This is number 2. So that's another example of open innovation going and building capability outside of the organization for asks like this.
So you were just doing sort of a horizontal scanning of interesting firms and
Yeah, so we basically say, what are the things that are costing us an insane amount of money or taking too much time, and is there another way to approach this? And engineering firms
hammered on these.
Engineering firms are expensive, and what that does is it slows us down, or we can't do as many projects because instead of spending $500,000, I'm spending $15,000. I mean, that's a big. I can do 10 more experiments or whatever it is, and then of course the time. But then there are sacrifices, right? I mean, I'm on the phone from 8 to 9 every evening with the team in India. And a lot of my folks who are not Indian, I'm originally from India. You can't tell from the accent, can you? They don't have the patience, so sometimes the cultural barriers get in the way. They will never say no to you. They have this weird nod, like, what are they? Is it a no or a yes? This is a yes, this is a no, all right? If the Indian leads with his chin, it's a no. If he doesn't lead with his chin, it's a yes, all right?
I learned something there.
There you go. So, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I guess I'm peppering
So
you.
it's all that stuff that you have to overcome because you have to bring your whole organization along. You can't just be, just say, hey, all the Indians in the organization come with me. No, that's not how it works. They're all in IT. So.
All right. Well, I could go on, and we have gone on and on. When I get off a call with Navin, I get like 4 pages of notes, and I'm like,
We've done 2 or 3 calls, and every time it's totally different.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
But I always learn something. So I'm gonna shift to audience questions. I'll come back if I feel so inclined. But we have these throwable mics. Voila.
Yeah.
Go for it. Catch boom. So you want to toss it?
Sure. I'm happy to toss it.
Anybody? Raise your hand if you want it.
I'm going to get out of the lights, so there you go.
Oh, it would have been more fun if the lights stayed down.
It's way back there, so I'm going to toss it to you, and you can toss it to him, okay? No, I'm terrible at throwing.
The wall.
There you go. Perfect.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. How do you properly incentivize an external audience to participate with Clorox?
How do we incentivize an external audience to
Participate with you.
So you're talking about crowdsourcing?
Yeah. Or someone to come in and participate, be part of that panel discussion around Burt's. Like, why would someone who spends their time living on a beach in all natural interact with you at all?
3 words: cold, hard cash.
Yeah.
But
Shocking.
more than that, it's also being part of. We have to also sell them on it because they get more cash in Hollywood. So I was facetious in my answer, but you have to pay them, of course. But on top of that, they have to believe in what the brand is trying to do. People get bored in their lives doing the same thing over and over, and they want to be part of something bigger and better and a legacy. This is not easy, and sometimes their ideas are rejected, and that's not easy for an artist. So we have to explain it to them. It's delicate, and you form a relationship, a bond. They want to be part of the future of what Burt's is trying to do. And a lot of them are avid fans of the brand. I usually try to find people who care about the brand and not just about the cold hard cash. So that's how you usually get the advisors to participate. It's a lengthy process. We kind of work hard at it, but it starts with a lot of going to these conferences, just really getting a sense for people, and saying this will be a good fit, this will not. Because a lot of people can do the work, but will they have the right resilience and the attitude and the right fit with the business? And that's where things kind of make or break. And that's something for us internal folks to judge. If I just outsource that and give it to somebody, they'll find me folks, but it won't be a good fit.
We have another question here.
Hey, yeah, this is pretty cool. We're buying these, by the way. I love these. So my question is around when you're working with those companies on the outside, putting those deals together, is there a templated program you do around intellectual property and, how much each party's going to pay, or is every single one a new landscape for you?
We have a standard form that we
Can you
use.
give us a framework of what that looks like?
So are you talking specifically about working with a startup, for example?
No, working with like a supplier, like they have a technology that you want to leverage, and you have something that takes that to the next level from
Yeah.
something you've discovered, but you don't want to give that away because then they'll just go do it themselves. Or
Right.
how do you do that dance?
Let's talk offline as well, but broadly speaking, there are a few types of agreements we do. Sometimes it's a supplier agreement where in return for their innovation, we buy product from them, which is the current generation. So in some ways, we are paying for their innovation through buying their current stuff. So we have to have a strong relationship with our supply chain and procurement folks. So the innovation and the procurement folks work hand in hand. Another way is by giving them a licensing agreement where they get a percentage of the revenue. That a lot of times might work if it's a small startup or somebody, but we'll cap it because everybody has like huge dollar signs. They think everything's going to make $1 billion, and it doesn't. And then there are other things around. When you co-develop something, you have to create some rules where I own this piece, you own that piece, and so on. And we find out if people want to play ball or not. If somebody is just being super greedy and is always trying to grab, we walk away. We don't want to work with them because this is not going to work in the long run. So we tend to work with people who have the right attitude and want to work with us in the long term, and not just some of the short-term people. So we watch for the attitude as well when we are negotiating. We try to be fair, and we have a good reputation in the supply space for that.
So just to follow up to that, what's like a percentage? Like how many of these companies don't get the long range view? Like just try and take. I mean, is there a percentage you can give us? Are the majority of them?
Most of the large companies get the long view.
Okay.
Some of the smaller ones just don't. A lot of the inventors we've had trouble with. Some inventor will come to us and they have outsized expectations of what this will do. They are so much in love with their solution. They get very upset when you tell them this is actually solving a problem which has a tiny market size, or I have 5 other things I would rather launch than this, and they get angry, and you have to just take it and move on to the next person. And that's just human emotion because people have so much invested in their product, right? I mean, they've put their money into it. They've put friends and family funds and years of their life, and it gets emotional. So we try to be empathetic about that, but also you have to have the business sense, because going down the road and then both parties fail is not going to help anyone. As open innovation, we try to have the best interests of the partnership in mind. Not the partner, not Clorox, but the partnership. And sometimes we'll step in and tell our own people that we need to give in a little bit more because this is not going to work for them. So that's kind of the role we play. I hope that answers your question, but we can talk offline as well. Okay? Yeah. Do we have time for more questions?
Yeah.
I think we're out of time. We're good?
Yeah, we got
Let
time.
me sit back because somebody's not happy.
So this is related to that question, maybe the reverse of it a little bit. I think that a lot of times from a corporate perspective, we look at startups and partnerships and ecosystems there, more like a vendor relationship. So how do you get the organization to be better corporate partners to create the right kind of ecosystem for those type of partnerships, like a startup or that kind of thing?
You're talking about Clorox or you're talking about them?
No, so in your shoes, talking about Clorox, in our shoes, it would be our organizations, hints to be good citizens, if you will, with the startup community.
Yeah. Startup community, I've actually spoken at a few of these events recently. There is a mismatch in clock speed between startups and corporates, and governments kind of fall with corporates. Okay, you have a lot of so startups think in terms of minutes, hours, days, maybe weeks if they're super slow. Corporates, if they're super fast, will think in terms of weeks, then months, sometimes quarters and years, right? There's a big mismatch. There's an impatience, with respect to the startup. it's not about the right have the right papers in place, or some of that can be easily resolved. I mean, you have both parties who want to do business together and are being fair. It's just it takes us a long time to get our ducks lined up because we are a matrixed organization. We have a lot of stakeholders. We have a lot of other processes to think about. Every now and then our business will come to us and say, hey, so-and-so startup has launched a product and it's like violating so-and-so conditions and the FDA hasn't come after them. Why aren't we doing it? It's like, because we are Clorox. The moment Clorox does it, they'll be all over us. Because it's a tiny company, they're not going after them. And so it's not the same rules. We are not playing by the same rules because when a company has a strong brand and a lot to lose, you have to play by a different set of rules and processes. And granted, we can be faster, okay? But we can't be as fast as most of the startups want us to be. So there's that little bit of expectation mismatch that happens. Once you overcome that, we've had lots of success working with startups. I don't think it's a question of you're a startup and we can't work with you and so on. And the other thing that I think startups have a hard time is they are totally focused and in love with their solution. And we are focused with our problem. We could work with anyone. Why would we force fit your solution into our problem? We don't have to. I'm sorry that you spent all these years working on it, but I'm trying to solve my problem here. And you need to understand that as a startup. And we try to explain that to them as well in a gentle way, because I'm focused on solving my problem. So we have to focus first on the problem, then the solutions will come. And the best startups that have worked with us have been the ones that are willing to morph and pivot and adjust their solutions to fit our problems. And our problems evolve. And they will evolve with us. And those are some of the best partnerships we've had. I hope that answers your question.
Quick follow-up there. So what would you recommend for a company that's trying to create this culture that the people inside the company take that partnership first focus versus the external company and internal company focus? Like are there any kind of, you always have these little rules and snippet words and all this stuff. I mean, I hear empathy coming through.
Yeah, I
big
think
time.
empathy is important, for sure. I think you have to first have a business need to partner, right? No GM worth their salt will want to partner. They want the whole pie, okay? Let me be very honest here. You either want to buy the company or you want to own the whole thing. Partnering takes give and take, and both of you putting something together. It's a lot harder. But you have to recognize that you need something and that you can't have, and somebody else has something that you need. And there's that attitude. So it has to start with the need to partner, which is why that example that I showed earlier of Clorox realizing that we had to figure out a way to partner with all those other suppliers was important. So you need to start thinking about, do you absolutely have to partner? Or can you do it yourself? If you can do it yourself, go ahead, do it yourself. Don't partner. So that's where it starts first. And second is, once you have that on board, what are you trying to partner for? How much of the internal, how much of the external? How do you mix those two? Because if you have all external, then anybody can just copy you, right? You need to have some of your secret sauce in there. And so you need to think through some of those things as well. Yeah.
Got someone?
Maybe wave your hand if
Anyone got any more questions?
I can keep diving in.
Yeah, there's one up here.
There you go.
And I'll be around today and tomorrow. So if people want to find me.
Hi, Navin.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this. This is a great discussion.
Thank you.
So I see in your title, Business Networks Leader R&D. I know we at Bright Idea have a few clients who do kind of ecosystem type work in R&D. Do you think that open innovation has a place in other parts of the company? And if so, is that happening at Clorox right now? How do product teams go external and so on and so forth?
So you mean does OI has a space in other companies like corporates?
Well, just in terms of your organizational structure, R&D seems to be a good place to go out and find technologies and startups and so forth. But does open innovation have a place elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I just made up that title completely. Okay. If you look up, there is no other business networks leader in the world. So they say, what do you want to be? I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Business networks leader sounds good. Leader. So And I've kept it 8 years. I'm still business networks leader. Because we form these networks. It says ecosystems. When I first joined Clorox in 2011, it was all about this evolution into these ecosystems that you had to manage, these partnerships. It sits in R&D because Wayne Delker was the R&D lead and he had this insight. It could sit anywhere. The concept of needing to partner with the external world to bring external perspective and capability is not R&D centric. It started with technology because of our patent portfolio and the way we thought about it. Currently, we are supporting through expert networks and other things. Beauty Advisory Board is not R&D, it's marketing and consumer insights and product supply. And why are you making this in a glass case? It's so heavy. Why not in a plastic case? Because it doesn't feel good. Whatever, those kinds of discussion. That's not R&D. We don't eyes glaze over. So, so we support marketing, any function that needs it, right? But again, you need to have that humility. Somebody has to come to us and say, I have no clue how to do digital marketing. Can you find me some experts in this space? Or I'm trying to do, so and so something in Asia, and I need somebody locally there. And we get all sorts of crazy requests. So it sits within R&D, but it can sit anywhere. So you need to find the group that is, that the leadership that is open to the outside perspective, and a business or a group that is getting killed because it can't do it themselves internally, or that cannot keep up with what's happening outside. And so then you need to build this engine to quickly connect to the outside. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just worried about once you have your partners or you know who you want to work with, then you find a space where there is a common ground for the idea, whatever. But then comes the project management stage. I mean, you have a project team made up of people from 2 different companies, 2 different cultures. I mean, who manages that? What's the governance model you have? Once you have the project on hand, that needs to be processed for 6 months or so, and you need a budget that's funded by both companies. You need people from both companies. How do you manage that?
What time is drinks? Let's talk about it over drinks, because yes, it's about strategic alliance management. That's an entire new phase.
Does that sit with your group, or
it doesn't sit within our group? There are project managers. There are a lot of people who the best companies who do that are like Eli Lilly is one that comes to mind. They do an amazing job at that. Procter does a pretty good job at that. So it's basically having one person from one side, one person from the other side, who have the best interests of the partnership. There's Gene Slowinski's written some amazing books on strategic alliance management. I can point you to lots of resources. Okay. If I have this issue, you know what I'm going to call? I'm going to call the expert. I don't know how to do it.
So you would bring somebody?
I would bring in somebody from the outside to help me put this team together to make this work. So that's how we would tackle it, because we know we may not have that. Or we might say, somebody might come in and teach us that these are the key elements. And I mean, obviously I know the answers, so that we've done this before. But yeah, that's a totally different game.
But it's a skill you don't have. Once you get into this thing of the open innovation,
you need to
have
build
a partner sitting there.
You need to build it.
At least we've seen 2 or 3 cases where you just don't have, and neither has the partner, those skills.
You can hire those skills. You can hire those skills.
You would go out for those skills.
We can hire those skills, absolutely. Don't let those lack of skills stop you. You can hire a project manager who can manage both. You can. Let's talk over drinks. This is a deeper, longer topic.
I've got a quick interjection.
Yeah.
We'll wait for the next one. But why did GLAD have to be a joint venture? I'm just backfilling some of my own knowledge.
Thanks.
If you don't want to talk about it.
No. I'm happy to talk about it. So GLAD business, the GLAD was the trash can and food container business, and Clorox owned it, right? We have it, and it was getting a little stale, and we needed new technologies and kind of freshen it up a little bit. Procter had these technologies that they used in diaper. One was called Force Flex. When the baby's diaper gets heavy, and you know this, Matt, now, it sort of starts sagging, and once Jackson starts walking, you'll see it's sagging, like, oh, is it going to drop? What's going to happen? So they have this. I'm glad they have this Force Flex, right? force flex thing, which kind of gets strong and sort of keeps
like
that
a
thing.
polymer,
It's like a polymer. It's a technology that's woven in there. So they had this force flex technology. They had spent like $1 billion in it, and they wanted to monetize it beyond the diaper business. So they came to us and say, "Hey, do you guys want to reduce your plastic by putting force flex inside?" So we said, "Sure," but they said, "But we're poor. We don't have that much money. We're like, we can't pay for this. Why don't we give you a percentage of our company? How does that work?" So we decided to do a joint venture in return for the force flex technology, and the other one was the press and seal. So if you look at the Glad wrap, they have the press and seal. Again, for the diapers business, they had figured out how to do the press and seal, because when you're putting the diaper on the baby, you go and then you press it, right? So there are these two technologies that we license from them in return for a percentage of the business, and then we created this joint venture where they own 20%, we own 80%. They even now the Febreze, they have Glad with Febreze. Febreze is a Procter technology, so their technologies get into the joint venture. They do not go outside into Clorox, so it's airtight. We have a lot of rules about it, and because there's a lot of common ground between Procter culture and Clorox culture. Procter used to own Clorox from 58 to 69 or something. A lot of common leadership there. Even the Clorox blue in the logo is the same as the Procter & Gamble blue. Surprise. So yeah, it's the same. It's a lot of similarities. Our current CEO used to be at Procter. So because the cultures are the same and they have the same values, it works. That joint venture works.
And when you, sorry, I'm interjecting, but when you get the technology from, say, Procter, like you still do your own production with their sort of proprietary methods.
Yes.
You and then is it like black box, or it's just sort of legally
It
protected?
stays inside the JV. Nothing can come out of the JV.
Okay.
People have so what goes inside the JV doesn't go outside, and we have agreement not to poach each other's people, and so on. Yeah, so that's how it works. So it's $1 billion business now, the Glad business. Yeah.
More questions from the audience? If not, I can fire some more. So let's talk digital. I came by your place, and,
right.
and we were talking at the digital fair. So most people would probably assume what is a bleach company doing in digital. So how do you guys think about that? This new world, and how does that sort of trickle into your thinking?
Digital is here. I mean, we have to figure out how it applies to us. So it starts with marketing, because our consumer, and except for the Kingsford charcoal brand, it's a she is shopping and on her phone way more than reading the inserts in the Sunday newspaper for ads, and watching TV with the DVRs and stuff. Nobody watches ads anymore. And so we had to get digital to get to her where she shops, to understand how people interact. So the marketing organization took the lead, and we decided that most of our ads would be digital. We went from practically no digital presence 3 years ago to more than 50% of our spend is digital now. So marketing to the lead, because that's where it is. And we have some crazy things they do. They work with the Weather Channel, for example, to understand what the weather patterns are going to be, and when to do advertising for Kingsford, because it's going to be warm in Atlanta this weekend and people might want to grill, and there's a cold snap in Florida, so take the ads off. And in Burt's Bees, in Madison, in New York, when the winds are blowing from the north and it's cold, they make sure that all the Duane Reads along those avenues get stocked with extra lip balm, because people forgot their lip balm. I need to go get lip balm, and they don't want to run out. And they have all this amazing technology that links it all. Following that is the R&D people are sort of next on board, which is why we're just starting on the digital journey now, and that's part of the create. So what R&D and innovation do is create the product, right? We don't have a lot of digital products. I mean, there is a digital pitcher, by the way. There is an Amazon pitcher that automatically orders for you when your filter is ready, needs to be replaced. But I can't imagine how this would be digital, right? I mean, this is like just wipe. And so the products are not digital, but the way we develop our products can be digitized. The way we interact with our consumers, understand their needs, figure out what the reviews are, what people like, what don't like, modeling and simulation. I mean, there's some amazing work going on out there on how people model physical products as well as sensory things. And then of course e-com, like everything is being bought e-com. So we are doing all of those things. We don't brag a lot, so people don't see us as a very digital company, because a lot of our products are not digital. We don't make iPhones and stuff like that. But that's how the digital comes along. And then the last one is the supply chain and operations people. So you create the product, that's R&D, you make the product, that's supply chain and operations, and then you sell the product, which is marketing and sales, and they were digital first, and then everybody else is kind of coming along.
Got it.
I hope that answers your question.
Yep. So we're getting a little short on time. I have two more questions. I'll be leading the witness a little bit here, but so summits. We didn't really touch on summits.
Yeah.
Am I using the right word?
Yeah, summits. So we talked about the advisory board earlier. Think of a summit as similar to an advisory board, except an advisory board advises the business throughout. A summit is a one-off event to learn something completely new. So I could do a summit on AI. Like people are curious about AI, they know nothing about AI. What is AI, ML, deep learning? What is that? I'll do a summit on it. I'll bring some experts, teach the organization, have them ask questions. So a summit is an event with a series of experts culled from the space to teach our organization about a new space and help them identify what problems they might have that these new technologies can solve. Because we want to demystify all this digital stuff. It's not that complicated, but people get all like hung up, and then a lot of the folks who don't really understand it, they know all the acronyms, they throw all the acronyms at you. Have you tried AI, ML, AR, VR? I'm like, whoa, dude. Like, okay, slow down here. What exactly is this? How does this apply to me? Why would I care? And so we try to demystify a lot of that, and that's a summit.
Sorry, quick side question.
Yeah.
So when you're searching for these people, be it the LA person or people for the summits, what's that look like on the ground? I mean, are you going through personal networks? Are you Googling? Is it just any port in the storm?
No, it's all of the above. We usually start by, of course, Google, and using a lot of these tools is like a no-brainer. You have to do that. But beyond that, we go to conferences, we talk to people, we talk to experts in the space to see their recommendations. So it's not just a Google search and I'll give you an Excel spreadsheet and you go find somebody and you pick somebody who wants to work with us. No, it's a little bit more involved than that. Because you have to judge whether that person would be a good fit, whether they would sit inside a room and be able to advise the business in a way that the business gets influenced to take the action that they need to take. Otherwise, what's the point? And so it's a little bit more involved. But yeah, all of those things you mentioned, we will use. We will use LinkedIn. We will use all those avenues.
And
to find the right
you personally are looking for someone on LinkedIn, finding people at a conference, making a phone call,
We all do it.
Yep.
We all do it. Our team does it. We go to conferences. We go to new spaces. We have a mix of business-related stuff that we know the business is interested in, and we have the far-out crazy stuff, like where we know the business may not even be interested in, but it's crossed one of our radar screens. And I went to the IoT conference before people called it IoT, just to kind of see what the heck that was about, just to see. And so we go to these conferences almost ahead of need, and if it doesn't develop, that's okay, but at least we know what that's about.
Yep. So one last question here, change gears, and again, a bit of a setup, but why are you here?
For the food, man.
I'll lead you further if you don't know where I'm going.
No. I know exactly where you're going. So, so I'm here because I want to give back to the community, the innovation community. Innovation is hard. I mean, you've seen a few people say this already this morning. Innovation is hard. And we have to all be in it together. We have to share these stories together. It's the how. I think the GM guys were here last year, and they were just getting started. I think Will and Ahmad and some of those guys. And look how far they've come along. They've tapped into the community. We've tapped into the Bright Idea community. We've all helped innovate. And that story you told me this morning really touched me, because if there are so many ways that innovation process can go wrong. But if all those things do connect, then that product ends up where you can use it for your family when you need it, right? So we need to put aside our egos, we need to put aside our processes, our orthodoxies, our unwillingness to learn and stretch ourselves, and just keep an eye on that end goal that we are all trying to do, which is put out a better product, something, a better service, something that can help humankind and the consumers at the end of the day. And the process of innovation is all we could get better at. So if we all get better at it, the world will be a better place. It's not like I'm sharing something that we are competing on. We are all getting better at a skill. And I think innovation is that skill. And it's a little bit of heart and head and attitude, as well as the smarts that you need and the resilience. And that's why the community is important. You will get kicked hard. You will get bad reviews. You have a 3-year horizon and everybody's measuring you on a quarterly basis. You have strategic alliance issues, like you mentioned, right? It's like tearing your hair out. I didn't lose my hair because of that. Genetically, we tend to go bald. But, stuff like that happens. And so we need to, as a community, share, be friends, share our stories, share practical tips and tricks in order to get to that next step and eventually get those products and services where they'll do the most good. That's why I'm here.
Okay, well, I told you it was going to come fast and furious, and I think you got a little taste of what it's like to be on a call with Navin. So let's thank him for sharing all his insights.
Thank you.
And we'll move right along.